In this lesson, we're going to use polygon modeling techniques to create the blade. Alright, so in the last lesson we blocked out the shape of our blade, and now what we're going to do is we're going to use some polygon modeling tools up here in our graphite modeling toolbox, and we're going to create the geometry we need for the blade. So what we're looking for specifically is a tool that's going to help us to create the loops that we need to create this blade properly and to get all the details that we want. So to get started with this, let's go ahead and grab our Create panel and go to Geometry, and let's create just a single plane. And I'm going to create this right on top of my blade, so I'm going to turn on Auto Grid, and I'm just going to left click and drag this out. Let's hit F3 just to see that. And then with that, let's make sure that our width and length segments are turned on. And let's go ahead and pull this forward. It should have created right on that plane there, but I'm not really sure why it didn't. But that's okay. It's not a big issue. Let's go ahead and pull this plane all the way up against right here. And I'm going to right click and convert it to editable poly. Now we created a keyboard shortcut for extend, so that was Control Alt and Shift X, and you can see our cursor changes here. So now I want to be able to move these vertices around, and I want to actually draw right on this surface. Now, in order to use the extend tool the way we intend for this course, I want to come up here to freeform, poly draw, and extend. You'll see it is active. Let's go ahead and turn it off really quickly, and let's draw on a surface. So let's select that, and you'll notice our pick button becomes active. Let's left click on that and click on the surface of this object. Now if we go to poly draw, you'll see that it says line 001. Now we can go ahead and use our extend tool, and let's hold down Control Alt and then left click on that vertex there, and let's try this one more time, and I believe it's Control Alt Shift, excuse me, and then we'll move this over. Now you'll see that it's kind of falling behind the surface, so something is happening here. Well, it's not recognizing that as a surface because the original geometry is a line. So using that procedural modeling method is great, but it's not good for this particular purpose. So what I need to do is I need to right click and convert this to editable poly, so that way I can use this as a surface. So now let's go to poly draw extend, and now let's hit Control Shift Alt and then left click and drag that object. Let's make sure we have our plane selected. Try this one more time, and then we'll move that out, and it's still snapping to the center, and it's actually snapping to the other side. So something is wrong with our surface. So let's go ahead and select our blade. Let's go to polygon mode, hitting 4 on the keyboard, and you'll notice that this polygon appears to be a little dark. And what's happened is that this polygon is actually flipped inside out. So let's go to our Edit Polygons Rollout and hit Flip. Notice how it gets bright on the outside. That lets us know that the polygon is correct. Let's also flip this one, and let's select this geometry all the way through, and we'll flip that. So now our surface should work properly. So let's try this one more time. Let's select our object. Let's go to Poly Draw, Extend, or we could use the keyboard shortcut. We'll use that soon, I promise. We'll use Control Alt and Shift, and now you'll notice that that is snapping properly to the surface now. So this is working great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my polygons to basically loop all the way around. So now let's hold down Shift, and let's just drag this edge out. And let's continue to hold Shift and release, and we'll drag out these polygons along the front edge of this blade. This is a great tool to use for retopology, as well as creating geometry on a surface like this. So I'm going to hold down Control Alt Shift and start to grab these vertices and straighten them out a little bit, and just kind of following along the direction in which they're moving. So it's kind of slanting down. Okay, and we can come in and we can tweak these as much as we want, but we really don't need to get too far into tweaking all of this. So let's continue, hold down Shift and drag out. And we're going to go out to this edge. Okay, and I'm going to continue to drag this up. Now, once we get around these corners, it's a good idea to go ahead and stop, hit Control Shift and Alt, and grab those vertices and point those in the direction that they need to go. So we'll do something kind of along this line, and then I'll bring that up, and I'm going to point it down in this direction, hold Shift, go out to the corner here, and then I'm going to drag this out to here. Now this might look a little odd at first, and we might even get rid of one of these bits of geometry because the polygons are just so small in that area, so we may have to kind of spread this out a little bit more. Now it's okay if we cut off one of those corners. It's not a big issue. We can always get that geometry back once we start finalizing the high poly version. So let's hold down Shift and drag out this edge. And I'm going to continue to go around. And again, hold Shift to drag out the edge. Hold Control Alt Shift to grab the vertices and to pull those around. Okay. And again, I'm not getting too far into the details. I'm not trying to create really small polygons. In fact, I'm trying to create larger ones to make this a little bit easier to work with in 3ds Max once we start to connect everything back together. So I'm going to go out here to the edge, and then I'm going to take this vertex right down to here. And let's see, looking at this, I'm going to bring that up and around along the outside edge, and then we'll fill in the rest there. And I'm just kind of looking at this and wondering if I could just pull the vertices down and get everything that way. But I don't think that that's going to give me the correct edge that I need, because I know that I need this line for the blade. So let's hold down Shift. I'm going to drag this edge right here up. Now you'll notice that it's not allowing me to drag that edge for some reason. So let's try something a little bit different. Let's right click on that. Let's end that process, and let's go to edge mode. Let's select this edge and pull that up. Let's go to our front view, and then we'll go ahead and we'll hit Control Shift Alt and X to go back to extended view. Control Alt Shift and move these vertices around. And let me go to right here. I'm trying to keep these as straight as possible. Let's hold down Shift and drag those edges out. And we'll go out to here. Control Alt Shift to pull those vertices. And there we go. We'll take care of these gaps as they come along. So continue to hold Shift, drag those out. Okay. And just bringing these down, following along with that shape there. And sometimes it'll grab the wrong edge, so you just need to hit Control Z to undo and then retry it. Alright, let's straighten up the vertices there, try to get those to point in the correct direction. And then I'm going to hold down Shift and drag this out. Okay, hold down Shift, and we're going to finish out the rest of this here. And I'm just pulling out these polygons to, give them a pretty good size to where they match up with the blade shape pretty well. But I'm not trying to go too small, again, because it can be difficult to work with if you go too small. It's always easier to add segments than it is to take away, in my opinion, whenever we do this. So now, what we need to do is we need to finish out the rest of this. So I'm going to create one segment right in here. So I'm going to right click to end my extend. Let's hit Control Shift and S to go to our Swift Loop tool. And let's create one loop right here. Then I'm going to hit Control-Shift-Alt-X to go back to my Extend tool. And let's hold down Control and Alt and then left click and drag between these points. And you'll see how it starts to fill the gaps. Now some of these gaps are going to start getting a little tough to reach on all of this. So let's hit Control-Z a few times. Let's just get these last two. And then what we'll do is we'll come in and we'll start to hit Control-Alt and we'll try to get as many of these as possible. And then we'll go from there. We'll start to work in some more loops in different places. We'll take away some geometry to get all of this to fit, and we'll fill in those gaps in the next lesson. We'll get everything ready to go, and then we'll start to really shape out the blade. So I'll see you in the next lesson.